On today's show, we're going to be discussing the player grades for each LA Clipper player in the playoffs and the regular season. What do I think of the performances of each guy? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Cancun Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and just finished my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod, and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. Going live after every night of playoff basketball to talk about it. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know which player grade you agree with the most, and let me know which one you disagree with the most. And this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. The best board game in the world can be now played on the go. All you got to do to play it is get it, download it on the Google Play or App Store for free. All right, in this episode, I am going to be grading each player that played in the playoffs on their regular season and their postseason. And if we have extra time, maybe some players that didn't even play in the postseason that played in the season. And then at the end, evaluating how I thought Ty Lue and the coaching staff did in the Dallas series. Because, you know, the last two episodes following our defeat have just been very raw reaction, raw emotion. But let's, settle down and just evaluate the performances of the guys that the Clippers had. Reacting to Lawrence Frank's comment and stuff like that. But let's talk about how the guys played. Beginning with Kawhi Leonard, our franchise player, our best player. They haven't announced the All-NBA teams yet. But when they do, I'd be pretty surprised if Kawhi Leonard's not on one. In the season, he played 68 games, which was his most since 2017. He averaged 24 points a game, 23.7 to be exact, 6.1 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists, 1.6 steals, 0.9 blocks, 2 turnovers, 1.8. So overall, to simplify that stat line, 24, 6, and 4 to go along with 2 steals and a block. He did all that on 52.5% shooting, 42% from 3, and 88.5% from the line. He shoots 1.5% better from the foul line, and he's a 50-40-90 player. In my opinion, the stat that I don't like looking at Kawhi Leonard's statistics for the season, because those sounded pretty good, he only averages 17 shot attempts per game. That's not enough. And, there were very many, that period of time where James Harden came to the team and everybody was deferring and Kawhi was not being aggressive enough. It felt like a while, but it actually wasn't that long. So for the most part, that is not quite acceptable, in my opinion, for Kawhi Leonard to only be averaging 17 shots a game. You look at 2023, averaged actually even less, but he was partially coming off an injury, so some of those stats were kind of tricky. He was coming off an injury in 2024 as well, but it was much more serious, the rehab. He had a setback early in the 2023 season, but he only averaged 0.4 more shots in 2021. So what that tells me about Kawhi is that he doesn't shoot enough. And the eye test backs that up wholeheartedly. When he plays, he needs to be more aggressive and take 20 shots a game. I think the Clippers are a better version of themselves when he takes 20 shots a game. I think he's so efficient, why not? And the thing about Kawhi is he's not exactly the best at getting shots off. Paul George is better at that given his size, given the wiggle that he has in his game. Kawhi is a little stiffer. I'm not going to say he's robotic anymore because he really has come a long way with his handle and the wiggle in his game. But a lot of times it doesn't come out unless he's really in his bag. For the most part, he's pretty stationary, get to a spot, back you down, and then get to his mid-range. It's not a lot of ISO, shift. And when he does do a lot of dribbling, he usually tends to not create too much. So Kawhi Leonard, and by the way, those stats I mentioned earlier, You don't even account for his defense. Not necessarily anything like all NBA, but very solid. When he was on ball, the few times that teams actually put him in the action on the ball, he did a good job. And then he's off the ball. He's one of our best guys low man help, communicating. Just one of our best defenders, probably our second best defender overall after Zoo this season on performance, but our most talented defender individually, no doubt. Of course, Kawhi, a two-time Defensive Player of the Year in the past. I still don't like that 17 shots thing. I think Kawhi Leonard, despite the fact that he knows what shots are good for him and doesn't force things, he needs to force things a little more sometimes. And I don't even mean like take bad shots, but I just mean try a little bit harder to get your shots. You know what I'm saying? If the Clippers do, which they will probably keep him around, he's got to shoot 20 shots a game. And he's got to really be aggressive throughout games. So my overall grade for Kawhi in the regular season is an A-. It's not an A+ because I think there were some winnable games that he could have closed better. I think there were some games where the Clippers just didn't look like they came out to play, and he looked tired and exhausted. So, and then the thing about Kawhi is he doesn't really galvanize. He's not a leader of men in that way. He's just kind of a lead by example. I'm going to go out and do my thing. I'll lead on defense, but he doesn't grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, yo, give me the ball and get out of my way. If anything, that's one thing we criticized him for a lot on this show was Kawhi is not demanding the ball enough in the fourth. He's not saying, he's not taking over. He's letting Paul George kind of just do things, letting James Harden do things. We want Kawhi to be assertive, aggressive, and say, this is my team. Get out of my way. I'm going off. So I'm going to give him an A-. And then in the playoffs, I'm going to give him a D. Not because I think he really did anything wrong. It's just that, his job was to be available. His body failed him. When he played, we lost both games. He was really bad for his standards when he played, a shell of himself. Defense wasn't bad, but offensively, we were force-feeding him the ball. And it was really taken away from the rest of our team. In the 2 games he played, he scored 12 points a game and shot 46% from the field and 0% from 3. Clearly did not have his legs for the 3 balls. So that's my brutally honest opinion of Kawhi's performance in the series. And then we have Paul George, who in the regular season had a very standard Paul George season. I will say the great thing about it was 74 games played, his most as a Clipper. Seeing Paul George play 70-plus games in a season for the Clippers is something to be like, wow, that jumps off the page. And thankfully, he was healthy enough to play in the playoffs. But if anything, it really made him look worse. In the regular season, it was a typical Paul George season. Very similar stats to the last couple. He averaged 23 points a game, 22.6 to be exact, 5.2 rebounds a game, and 3.5 assists. So 1 less rebound than Kawhi, 1 less point than Kawhi, and 0.1 less assists than Kawhi, and 0.1 less steals, 2.1 turnovers, which was obviously more than Kawhi. And he shot 47% from the field, which was great, 41% from 3, and 91% from the line. Had he shot 3% better from the field, which is never going to happen. He's not going to shoot 50% ever. He would have had a 50, 40, 90 season. Paul George's stats look pretty fantastic for the season. I mean, 23, 5, and 3.5 on those splits. Really good. Paul George, though, here's the problem. He shoots only 0.4 less shot attempts than Kawhi per game. And that's no good. And the crazy part is when Kawhi doesn't play, we still criticize Paul George for not being aggressive enough. It just, I think the greatest sign of a player in any era is knowing the situation and what's needed out of you in the game and knowing exactly when to go to it and then being able to then go to it and execute it over the other team. And Paul George, I think, fails in that respect in many ways. We ask him to be more aggressive without Kawhi. Then with Kawhi, we sometimes ask him to tone it down. I give him a B for the season. I don't really have a problem with his stats, but I think he just has too many duds. Just so inconsistent. And then the playoffs, I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum so far. This offseason already, this early offseason. 19.5 points a game. 7 rebounds, 5 assists. So the rebounds increased by 2. The assists increased by 1. But the points going from 23 to 19.5 when Kawhi Leonard's out for 4 games is just abysmal. And he shot 41% from the field and 37% from 3. Paul George for the playoffs, he gets a C minus. C minus. He was no good. No good. I give him a C minus and not a D because he had a great game 4 and he was solid in game 1. But I'm giving him a C minus. He was not good enough. And coming up, going to be talking a little bit more about the other guys in the rotation. Also, James Harden's performance. But yeah, that's my honest opinion about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and their grades for the season and the postseason. Then, of course, at the end, going to be talking about the coaching side of things coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor, and I mean every single one. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success, whatever that may be for you. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, so continuing to give player grades for the Clippers for the 2023-24 regular season and postseason, let's go to James Harden. Of course, comes in the trade, so much controversy. It takes a second, then Russell Westbrook goes to the bench, and James Harden starts to cook, starts to create good shots every time down for this team, gives you the feeling of having a third star, and the Clippers were rolling. And there was one point of the season where I felt like we couldn't lose. We just had too much talent. It was kind of crazy going from that to how the season ended, but I legitimately felt like we couldn't lose, and part of it was because James Harden was creating good shots, in addition to having Kawhi and Paul George. So James Harden for the regular season, he was absolutely on fire in the stretch that we went 26-5. And then he slowed down towards the second half of the season. He was dealing with a little bit of shoulder pain, but he really slowed down and had a tough stretch in about, I think it was March and the beginning of April. But overall, James Harden this season, he averaged 17 points a game, 5 rebounds, 8.5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, played 72 games, shot 43% from the field and 38 from 3. So a lot of his shots are threes. 7 of his 11 per game are threes, which I don't love, but he does shoot well from 3. 88% from the free throw line. So his true shooting percentage is probably pretty damn good, but he shoots 43% from the field, which to me tells me, which tells me that a lot of his shots are threes, which aren't the highest percentage shots in the world. Now, that being said, I think James Harden had a very good season, and I would give him a B+. I would give him a B+. I would give him an A, but then that slump towards the end of the season, so I'll give him a B+. As far as the postseason, we already know what I thought about James. I thought the first game, he was amazing. I thought the second and third game, he dribbled way too much and slowed down our offense and still got his points here and there with some stretches of good shooting, but it was not good enough, and his defense wasn't quite good enough. They were attacking him a lot and causing advantages. So I don't think he was just quite good enough in those 2 games. Then game 4, he was insanely good. Closed the whole game for us. And then game 5, awful. Game 6, he tried really hard. It was not that bad, but he just did not hit well enough. So I'm going to give him a B- in the playoffs. It should really be a C+ if we're holding him to a star standard, but I think we all had an expectation that, James Harden might falter a little bit. So I'm going to give him a B-. In the postseason, James actually led us in points, 21 points, 4.5 rebounds, 8 assists. So the rebounds and the assists were pretty constant. 1 steal and a block, also fairly constant from the season. Just increased his points per game. Then his shooting splits were almost identical to the regular season. 45% from the field compared to 43% in the regular season, and then 38% from 3 in the playoffs, just like the regular season. So There's James. Now for the rotation, guys. Zubats, the best season of his career, and you better believe that James Harden played a part in that with the way he was able to give him so many good looks in pick and roll. And of course, Zubats is a young player, so he's just going to continue to get better. Zoo played 68 games. We definitely struggled without him. He averaged 12 points a game, 9 rebounds, and a block on 65% shooting and 72% from the foul line. You absolutely love to see it with Zoo. He did not average a career high in minutes. That would be 2023, which is surprising to me given that we played less small ball this season, but I think it's just because we didn't have a backup center last season. He shot a career high. No, he didn't shoot a career high from the field. 65.2 in 2021. 64.9 this season. He shot a career high in shot attempts, though. We'll take that. Shot attempts and field goals made. Career high in points. 11.7 per game. So you love to see that. Zubats this season, his drop coverage defense was great. I would give him a B+. I would give him a B+. I think he was solid. He still has some really dud games, though, here and there, where he looks awful. In the playoffs, though, I'm giving Zoo an A-. I think he was our best player for his expectation. He barely had any bad games. He did get kind of sunned in the second half of Game 6 by Gafford after that dunk. But I thought Zoo was really consistent throughout the series, and we actually were starting to say, give the ball to Zoo in the post, which tells me how much he has grown that we're saying give him the ball to Zoo in the post in the playoffs. So postseason, if it's a Zubats, I'm giving him an A-. He averaged 16 points, which was a 5-point increase from the regular season, 9 rebounds, which was the same as the regular season, on 60% shooting. So you like to see that. There was a whole talk about is he going to get played off the floor. Well, we couldn't really survive well without him on the floor. 32 minutes played for Zoo. Then Terrence Mann. What an up and down season it was for him. Had a real slump to begin the season. And you know what? I love Terrence Mann so much. I was begging for him to start, but I think his regular season, he was a C+. I think he got cooked a good amount at the point of attack defensively. I think, as I said, Terrence Mann should be one of your point of attack defenders if you want to win a championship, not the main guy guarding the best guards on the other team. So the thing that give him a C+ is how long it took him to get going from 3. And I think playing a slower pace and constantly being stuck in the corner, even though James Harden got him tons of good shots, that wasn't really his game. He needs to be moving a little bit more, cutting, and then getting it in transition. And I think that hurt him. But no excuses. He did get his chance. He played 75 games, started in 71, and averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists on 51.5% from the field, 35% from 3, and 83% from the line. So eventually, Terrence still ended up shooting a decent, respectable percentage from 3 at 35%, but it was the lowest of his career. And it was the highest volume of threes that he had shot in his career. Was not his career high in field goal attempts. Was not his career high in minutes. That would be the 2022 season. Was not his career high in points. That would also be the 2022 season. Would not be his career high in rebounds. That would also be the 2022 season. And that would not be, and that, man, the 2022 season for Terrence, he was tied for career highs in games played. He had a career high in minutes, career high in shots made per game, career high in field goals attempted per game, career high in free throws made and attempted per game, career high in rebounds, career high in assists, tied for a career high in blocks, career high in steals, and a career high in points. Man, 2022 Terrence just was an added, extended run. But yeah, same exact PPG from 2023. That's interesting, even though he got 2 more minutes. He shot 39% from 3 in 2023, 35 this year. So even though he improved from the foul line, which is a career high from the foul line this season for him, I'm giving him a C+ in the regular season. In the playoffs, I'll give him a B. I think he was pretty good in the playoffs. He always tends to step it up. Let's see what his stats look like. In the postseason, Terrence Mann averaged 9.3 points, so he did increase his PPG by just a little bit. 5 rebounds on, man, he shot poorly, though. 41% from the field, but 45.5% from 3. The thing about Terrence is that he's got to stop with that passing up hesitation stuff on threes. Just way too much of that throughout the season of him passing up threes, even when he was shooting well from deep. So that's got to change. Let's see, who else? How about Norman Powell? Norman Powell, I think in the regular season, I'd give him an A. He just did whatever you needed him to do in terms of what you ask of him. Energizer off the bench to score. Should have been closer in the 6 Man of the Year ballot. Averaged 14 points a game on an efficient 49% from the field and 43.5% from three and 83% from the line. He was part of our most efficient lineup with the big three and Zoo, and was a part of so many comebacks with his shot making late in games. But in the playoffs, I give him a C+. I think the thing about Norm is if he's not scoring, he's not affecting the game elsewhere. He got taken advantage of on defense a little bit. And then I just don't think he had many good games. I think game 4 he was pretty solid. Then the last 2 games he was okay making shots. I think game 6 he went out pretty well, but just 13 points a game without Kawhi for 4 games. And let's look at his shooting splits. 43% from the field and 45 from 3. Wasn't good enough for me, unfortunately. How about Russell Westbrook? Man, what a weird season for him. Started out the season as the starting point guard. Then we go 0-5 with him and Harden starting alongside each other. He goes to the bench, has some really good games, has some not so great games. To be honest, I'll give him a B-. I think Russ, he really, he was, for the most part, mature about the situation from what we saw. He tried his best. He had some games where he didn't get enough minutes, had some games where it was just so weird. He wasn't able to get any rhythm. And also some games where he just didn't make the most of his minutes. It wasn't an ideal situation to play as little as he did. And then when he played with Harden so much. But I give him a B- all things considered, because I think coming off the bench, Russell Westbrook was still a big luxury in getting us to the win total that we got. In the regular season, he averaged 11 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1 steal. He played 68 games, but just averaged 22.5 minutes a game, which was less than our starting 5 plus Norm. So he was the 7th man in terms of minutes. And yeah, Russell Westbrook shot 45% from the field, but just 27% from 3 and 69 from the line. That 45% from the field was, I don't know his 2023 field goal percentage because I'm not looking at the average right now, but it was better than what he shot in 2022, 2021, or 2021. So not bad there, but career low in points for Russell Westbrook, career low in minutes for Russell Westbrook. So, I'm just going to give him a B-. In the playoffs, we all know it was extremely rough. While he wasn't put in ideal situations, I don't think he did any better. He lost control of his emotions in game 3. I'm going to give him a D. I'm going to give him a D straight up. I don't think he was good at all. Coming up, though, going to finish off talking about some of the rotation guys and then also grading the coaching. Let's see what I got to say about Ty Lue and crew. The best board game of all time can now be played on the go, and it's called Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. And you can get hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique minigames like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, let's continue to grade some of the rotation players and then get into the coaching. I've talked about the top 7 players in the rotation. So now let's talk about Mr. 8th man, and that was Amir Coffey. After the trade for Harden, this gave him an actual spot in the rotation, and I think he was pretty solid, all things considered. Played 70 games, averaged 21 minutes a game, which was only really 1 behind Russell Westbrook, 1.5. Averaged 6.6 points per game, 2 rebounds. He shot 47% from the field and 38 from three. So those are some pretty good shooting splits. It was his second highest scoring season of his career. Played in the most games he's ever played in. So Amir, again, I think he's another guy that was hurt by the lack of transition ball. I think he might be a better three-point shooter than Terrence. He showed that throughout the season that he was better. But I don't think he's better in every other aspect than Terrence. I think he's fantastic in transition, and he's a bigger defender. But we didn't get out in transition much after we got Harden. It wasn't a frequent thing. So that kind of hurt. I give Amir Coffey a B-. I think he was solid in what he needed to do. In the playoffs, I give him a C. I just don't think he really did much after game one, to be honest. In the playoffs, let's see. This was his first test of real playoff basketball, and he didn't really give us much to go off. He made me think on a championship team, he should be like a 10th man. The fact that he's like our replacement starter for Kawhi, not good enough. It shows that we're one wing short. Amir Coffey in the playoffs, 19 minutes played per game, 3 points, so half of his season average. He shot 32% from the field and 27 from three. So yeah, not good enough at all. And then, let's see. Let's go with Mason Plumlee. In the regular season, I'll give him a C-. He was okay. He had some good moments, some mostly bad. That game against the Lakers sticks out where he just turned the ball over so many times in crucial moments. No defense. Plumlee played 46 games. Obviously had that injury against New York that kept him out for months, which led to us getting Daniel Tice. He averaged 5 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 1 assist on 57% shooting. As I said, I'll give him a C-. And in the playoffs, I'll give him a D. He was just unplayable for the most part. Had a solid stretch in game 4. That was it. Mason Plumlee was played over Tice, played 11 minutes a game, 3 points, 3 rebounds on 39% shooting. Oh my God. 39% shooting for a center. Yikes. So I give him an F. No, I said a D. Okay. Then there's PJ Tucker. I give him an F for the season. I think he got his minutes and he showed he shouldn't be playing. Averaged. And in the playoffs, I'll give him a D+. Had some decent possessions. He averaged 5.5 points in the playoffs. Played in just 2 games. And in those games, though, he actually shot pretty well. 67% from the field and 75 from three. But the problem with PJ is he doesn't actually look to spot up much. He doesn't actually look to get a shot off. He's actually taking up space a lot of the time. In the regular season, PJ Tucker, he played, where's he at? Oh, there you go. 28 games, averaged 2 points a game on 36% shooting and 37 from three. Daniel Tice, in the regular season, I honestly give him a B+. I think he's not perfect. He's undersized, but he gave us exactly what we needed in that stretch that we needed him. We needed a backup center. Played 59 games. He averaged 6 points a game, which was 1 more than Plumlee. Only 1 less rebound than Plumlee and 0.2 less assists. He shot 54% from the field and 37 from three, and I can't even grade him for the playoffs because he didn't even play. So sad. Bones Highland, it was really a wasted year for him. He got some chances here and there. He had bad body language a lot of times throughout the season when he wasn't getting consistent run, which was the majority of the season. And then he had that game against Chicago. That was the best game of his young career. But he played in just 37 games, so 52 games where he didn't play. Averaged 7 points and 2.5 assists when he did play, and he shot very poorly. So really rough season for Bones, just not really getting much of a chance. So I'll give him a C. Brandon Boston, he got a little bit of burn throughout the season here and there. 32 games played, 11 minutes a game, 5 points in those minutes on 40% shooting, 27 from three. I'll give him a C+. You can't really judge him. He doesn't really get minutes. But that's all the players. As far as Ty Lue in the series, I think he coached a masterclass in game 1. I think some of the big flaws in the series were, in game 5, we didn't go to Zoo enough in the post. We didn't get enough elbow P, and we did not play Tice at all. I think that really sucked. And then playing PJ Tucker, I think the game 6 was a really bad game for Ty. playing PJ Tucker in a desperation situation in those last 2 games. Or was it the last game only? Might have been the last game only. I can't even remember. Let's go check. Why not? But that was like reeked of desperation and reeked of like I got no other moves to make. But yeah, okay, it was only the game 6. That was our last ditch move, was playing PJ Tucker and then using Russ in the way that he did, so much off the ball, so much with Harden. I think Ty Lue didn't do that great of a job, but of course, I got to cut him some slack given that he did not have Kawhi. You're not like asking the coach to do some crazy scheme to get you a win without your best player is just not feasible. Even the best coach in the NBA, people say, Eric Spoelstra, his team got absolutely clapped every single game outside of game 2 by the Celtics without Jimmy Butler. The Pelicans got swept without Zion. The Bucks are out in round 1 because they didn't have Giannis. So it's nothing crazy. And in Ty Lue, yes, he made some mistakes, but overall, I'm going to give him a C+. That's what I'll give him. Not great, but he did do well in games 1 and 4. But I think coaching's overrated. Like, I really think coaching's overrated in the NBA. I think it's all about the stars, and coaching does matter, but it's not what wins or loses you a series to me. But people disagree on that. I get it. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I'm breaking down every single playoff game. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be doing episodes all summer long talking about the Clippers, and we'll be getting guests on really soon. I'm going to get in my bag with that, I promise. The age-old proverb continues. Let me know what you think. Which grade did you disagree with or agree with the most? The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.